All right. Well, I have started the recording. Um, I think we'll get going. We're about 3 or 4 minutes past the hour, and I want to give Monty as much time as possible to educate us and inform us about the oceans and plastics and whatnot. This is an amazingly interesting topic. For those of you whom I have not met or who have not joined us before, my name is Chip Spear. I co-chair Yale Blue Green with Becky Bunnell, who is on the call with me. We share a lot of duties and split responsibilities in trying, well, we don't necessarily too much have to lead this amazing organization because there's so many incredible people who jump up and wave their hand to get stuff done. But I want to introduce our speaker, Monty Simus, who's going to give us a really amazing time for the next hour, I know. I'm going to read a little bit about Monty that was on our website in the introduction, but just for those of you who haven't read, Monty is a senior advisor of Blue Finance at the Ocean Cleanup, the Dutch nonprofit organization developing and scaling technologies to remove plastic pollution from the world's oceans and rivers. His work focuses on the intersection of environmental infrastructure, ocean policy, and innovative finance, including how plastic remediation, river systems, and coastal resilience can become investable components of 21st century infrastructure strategy. Monty is a member of the Treated Spaces Research Group at the University of Birmingham, where his interdisciplinary PhD research examines conflicts surrounding resource extraction, indigenous jurisdiction, and environmental governance through the case of Pebble Mine in Bristol Bay, Alaska. He served in 1923, he served as inaugural impact leader in residence at Harvard University's Advanced Leadership Initiative, focused on global water accessibility, resilient infrastructure, and sustainable finance. He currently serves as an associate with the Harvard China Project on Energy, Economy, and Environment at Harvard University's John A. Paulson School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and as an associate fellow of Branford College at Yale University. Sounds a little busy to me. Previously, Monty spent more than 2 decades working across impact investing, frontier markets, catalytic philanthropy, and sustainable development initiatives spanning Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. He holds degrees from Yale University and Harvard University. And with that, I am going to turn over to Monty.
Great. Thanks very much, Chip. And thanks to YBG for giving me this opportunity to share a little bit more about oceans and plastics with you today. As Chip mentioned, we have about an hour. I usually am able to work through the slides and videos in about 20 to 25 minutes. So we should have plenty of time for questions if they arise
So it's
as
about
we
an
as we
hour
move along.
total, roughly, right?
Right. Right. Exactly. So anyways, let me first off start to share my screen, make sure that I can get that going once again for everybody. And hopefully you'll see the Megacities Microplastics and Machines on everyone's screen.
Yep.
Okay, fabulous. Well, again, thank you for this tremendous opportunity. I am a graduate of the Yale College, class of 1989. But I still have had the opportunity to go back and forth quite recently as an associate fellow at Brantford, so have I feel like a fairly up-to-date feel for campus. But we're going to talk about an issue that affects, it's a global issue that affects billions actually around the world. But I'm really going to dial in a little bit more about Asia, as I said, megacities, microplastics, and machines, and have a look at how AI, artificial intelligence, drones, and data are helping our organization, Power Asia's fight against ocean plastic. See if I can move this along here. There we are. So plastic for sure has transformed all our lives, right? So I mean, it's transformed science, medicine, transportation, really every single industry. But as these images suggest behind or on the screen, it transforms the world around us in a number of negative ways as well. In fact, the coastlines and oceans around the world are filling with plastic at a really alarming rate. It's been estimated, to put it in a visual sense, that there's 167,000 truckloads of plastic that enter the ocean from rivers every single year, which is the equivalent of one truckload every 3 minutes. And this challenge of ocean plastic pollution is projected to double in the years ahead. And it's not just an environmental issue. I mean, we've shown the video or that clip, talked about doubling. It's a climate emissions issue. Plastic is a hydrocarbon, and so it's a large source of greenhouse gas. And it's also becoming a health issue. It had traditionally been configured in and around reproductive health issues, but now we're seeing health impacts around heart disease, asthma, and cancer, and microplastics, which are sort of the leading health risk because they're easily ingestible, are growing at a very accelerated rate. Here's just a few sort of independent sources. On the right-hand side, WWF, this is quite famous, or dramatically famous for its sort of dramatic and tragic headline. Basically, humans are ingesting the equivalent of a credit card a week in microplastics. So if you imagine your wallet, adding a new credit card to your wallet every single week, and at the end of the year, you'd have a wallet with 52 new credit cards. You can imagine how ungainly and difficult that would be to tuck in your back pocket or front pocket or backpack or purse. That's what's going into our bodies every single year. And the growing prevalence of microplastics throughout the food chain is really becoming known as a dramatic public health issue. A lot of people talk and hold great hope around recycling. I don't want a world without recycling. Here are some recent headlines from the past few months. Unfortunately, recycling doesn't have a great result related to plastic. It's estimated usually around, even with the sorted plastic that fortunately, many of us on this call and other jurisdictions around the world spend time on, really at the end of the day, only 10% of plastic that has been set aside for recycling actually gets recycled. And you can see from the latter two bottom headlines here on this slide, industry, whether it's the beverage industry or the hydrocarbon industry, has put a very concerted effort together to make recycling not as accurate or realistic or as honest as it should be. So that sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay. So anyway, so that's the challenge we have. We have a growing supply of plastic pollution, and we have a limited capacity to handle it. So we have this very large problem. Just a little bit of more additional background. Plastic, once it's in the ocean, tends to aggregate in 5 large patches. We call them the garbage patches. The largest of which is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is located halfway between California and Hawaii. It is approximately 2 times the size of Texas. It contains almost 2 trillion pieces of plastic. And you can see that this is just a growing challenge that has economic, environmental, and other costs. So my mission today is to provide hopefully a little bit of information and inspiration. I work for an organization called the Ocean Cleanup. We are undertaking what's called the largest cleanup in history. We're a nonprofit organization that's been around for just around 11 years now, based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. We're really a science and technology driven organization that's focused on understanding, measuring, mapping, and then finding the most efficient ways to remove plastic from water. But better than to listen to me talk too much, as we undertake our mission to rid the world's oceans of plastic, is to share a short video. This is around 90 seconds, and here we go. Hopefully the sound works.
So at the Ocean Cleanup, our mission is to rid the world's oceans of plastic.
The real complicated part of this puzzle is that everything is interlinked.
What we need to do is two things. One, we need to clean up the legacy pollution. Two, we need to close the tap.
Everyone's ready?
If we have the motivation and we have the skills, we will get there.
The first few years, we really focused on trying to understand the problem and map it, which then became the basis on which we developed our solutions. Our philosophy is to learn as we go and iterate our way towards success.
Good luck!
We've just passed the Golden Gate Bridge, the iconic moment.
Every hour is a small victory, and every plastic piece that we all catch is a small victory.
So we have a major structural failure.
This is normal. Welcome to the world of cutting-edge technology. The plastic is within arm's reach, literally. We can be that far away from getting a system working.
Whoa! Here's all tiny particles also.
What is the next logical step?
Boyan always thinks about improving.
With this machine, I truly believe that we're on the right track.
A dirty river comes in, a clean river comes out.
That's a teddy bear.
This is the day, this is the moment, finally.
The time has come now to deliver on our promises.
It's so beautiful to see this.
The most exciting thing in the world, to me.
We have shown that we are capable to repeatedly harvest large amounts of plastic. Let this mark the beginning of the end for the Great Pacific Garbage Patch.
Imagine if we do get this done, we could truly make our oceans clean again. That's a future to look forward to.
And that's the future that we're working towards at the Ocean Cleanup. So as you heard in the video, we really have we have our mission is to rid the world's oceans of plastic. Our goal is to clean 90% of floating ocean plastic. We do this by cleaning the legacy plastic in the ocean. And then as our founder, the young man who is featured in the video, Boyan Slot, we turn off the tap. We stop plastic floating from rivers into the oceans. Just to give you a sense, we're making sort of a pretty exciting progress. We're starting to see dramatic exponential growth in what we call our catch. So you can see we're, in 2025, almost 30 million kilograms of plastic. So we're doubling every year. So we're growing quickly, but the problem, as we started the whole conversation with today, is growing equally fast. Today, I wanted to spend a fair bit of time talking a little bit about how we do this and how we use some of the most exciting and innovative technologies and science around. And so we didn't just start by putting things in the water and trying to figure out how much plastic we could pull up. We actually spent a lot of time at our desks, or my colleagues at our desks, looking at where the plastic was started. So we studied 1,000 rivers. We actually studied more than 1,000 rivers, but we determined that actually 1,000 rivers in 200 cities contribute around 80% of the global river plastic that enters our oceans. You can see these highlighted. Many of them, and we'll talk a little bit about why this is, are located in the global south. So see a lot in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central and South America. But we didn't also just spend time finding where the plastic was coming from, but then we really started to assess each river system, because rivers are very unique. They all have characteristics. They have flow patterns. They have wind patterns. Some have tides. Some are used commercially. Some move through very large urban centers that have significant activity on the river sides of the rivers. So we spent not only time understanding where it was coming from, but how it was moving in the water. And we quickly learned that in addition to tackling large rivers like Chao Phraya, which is the main river that flows through Bangkok, you have to spend a lot of time and can actually, in some cases, much more effectively and cost efficiently capture plastic in what we call either side canals, gullies, are basically the river bodies that feed into the larger river systems. This is an overhead video of some of our ocean analysis. This just gives you a picture to suggest that it's actually not easy, especially in the ocean, to determine what is plastic, where it is. If you think of the ocean to be an extraordinarily large space, plastic typically can be submerged, partially submerged, but it's also typically not large, like it's not usually meters and meters. So sometimes it's pretty tricky for us to find and understand and locate where that might be. It also, even in rivers, tends not to be sort of on its own. It's often bundled up with either organics, so that's what you're looking at in some of these pictures, whether it's tree branches, leaves, dead fish, etc. And occasionally, unless we have a very sort of intelligent system, which we spent really almost a decade building, it can be easily confused at distance with some marine life, which is something, of course, you absolutely want to ensure doesn't occur when you're working on how to clean up and remove items from the water. So let me spend a moment or two talking a little bit about our use of artificial intelligence to find, monitor, and measure where we work. I will share a little bit more how we do this both in rivers and in the ocean. So first, we'll start in the ocean. This is where, as you can tell by the name of the organization, we have our foundational work, as mentioned, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And we actually commissioned a number of aerial surveys where we sent the large aircraft out, took images at a regular time interval and pattern to develop a database, if you like, a data set of what was there and where it was. We then, it's very costly to commission aircraft, so we've moved on to using UAVs, so unmanned aerial vehicles as well, using the same sort of mapping system, image recognition, and analysis. And we also put our cameras on vessels that are passing through different parts of the world's ocean system. And so we're very grateful to be working with Glovis and a number of other sort of large sea transportation lines, as well as some ferry lines. And we even welcome, if private individuals are moving their vessels through different areas, we're very happy to add our cameras onto their vessels. So here's again a very short video, I think around just a little over a minute, with one of my colleagues here at the Ocean Clinic talking a little bit about how we collect the ocean system, the ocean data system.
Imagery can be a really good tool to gather data on large floating plastics. However, it was only on one flight and it's not very scalable. And this got us thinking, how can we use technology to gather this kind of data at an even larger scale?
And that's how ADIS was born. ADIS stands for Automated Debris Imaging System.
It's an intelligent camera system that uses AI on board. It's a very easy system to install on any ship, and it's also highly robust.
In order to fulfill its purpose, ADIS needs to be out on the ocean as much as possible, and nothing sees more of the ocean than ships. With ADIS on board, vessels become part of a massive research network, helping to expand global coverage of plastic pollution studies. The camera's GPS ensures that it turns on automatically only once the ship is no longer in an exclusive economic zone. So, once the vessel is offshore, ADIS gets to work by capturing and processing images. The integrated AI identifies plastic waste in the water and, to save space, retains only the relevant parts of the image. When the vessel is close to shore, it transmits the data to the ADIS database. From there, specialized software combines all collected data and maps it, generating the ADIS Data Visualization Map. To get to this version, Robin and his team first had to build a proof of concept using GoPros. Along with the expertise of Ozone Technologies, they improved it towards the current version, ADIS 2. ADIS is so groundbreaking that it's part of the United Nations Ocean Decade, as it offers a low-cost solution to monitor and digitally represent plastic debris concentrations in the ocean.
ADIS collects data continuously, and that allows us to build trends and to look into patterns through seasons, but even through years. And this allows us to see if cleanup efforts or cleanup policies have an effect.
The best part is that this data will be available open source for everyone to use in the coming years.
So that's how we collect data out in the ocean. We use a very similar system on rivers. We call it the River RMS, River Monitoring System. The software is exactly the same. We position our fixed cameras usually on bridges or buildings nearby, where again we can collect images at a regular interval and have that plastic flux data transmitted back. This is I put into sort of slightly live case studies. So we're very busy in Mumbai. But before we put anything in the water, we spend a lot of time understanding. Mumbai's got a very complex watershed, a lot of different tributaries and contributing small gully systems. And as you can see here, Mumbai contributes around 3% of all land-based ocean plastic pollution, but 80% of the pollution originates only from like 30% of these, hundreds of these small riversheds. So we spent a lot of time sort of mapping where it was coming from, including using drones. So this is just a little bit of imagery, very brief, sorry. We ran some drones up and down. And then we spent time, again, across different seasons, because India has a monsoon season. So this makes plastic move sometimes in different directions, sometimes in different velocities, and certainly in different volumes. And we map that against other sorts of parts of this watershed, as I mentioned earlier, such as commercial use, etc. We have dynamic dynamic maps. So this is just a quick snapshot of Jakarta. I didn't make a live sort of connection here just because I'm a little bit concerned about my internet connection here in Manila today. But anyways, this is sort of what we would look at. And then the team would be going through to having a check to see sort of where it's coming from, what we're seeing in each one of these different layers, we call them. Okay, so I've given you a little bit about how we map, measure, and track plastic. So once we find it, what do we do? So we want to move from algorithms to action. I'm going to show you how we clean up both our ocean plastic first, and then some river plastic cleanup examples as well. So the giant U, which you saw, and you saw a few clips of it in the formative initial video that we shared. Of course, this is our third version of it, and you saw the first two versions had some challenges. They broke. It's effectively, if we stretch this U out into a straight line, it would be 3 kilometers or about 2.5 miles in length. It's around 4 meters. It's like a curtain that descends 4 meters into the water. It has a number of cameras along the way. It's towed very slowly through the ocean by 2 vessels. It has the cameras so that we can keep track in case that there's anything that get marine life that might get caught up in it. Very rarely happens due to a few reasons. One is it's moving through the water very slowly. It descends 4 meters, but of course the ocean's much deeper than that. So most marine life goes underneath it, around it, or just simply sort of outpaces it. However, something does get caught. These cameras will alert us. There's technicians monitoring, and there's along this U, there's a number of what we call escape hatches, which are ways in which we can stop the tow. They can sort of open up part of the curtain, and the marine life can then escape and move on. Here's how it looks like when we pull it up. The plastic aggregates in that triangular retention pocket at the end of it. And when it comes on the vessel, let me see, it looks a little bit like this. So that's how we take it out of the middle of the ocean. And we just repeat that process. In one calendar year, we can do the most we've done in one calendar year is around 120 missions, if you like, repeated sort of collections. But it's much more cost effective, as you can imagine, to stop the plastic, turn off the faucet before it reaches the ocean, because rivers are typically, obviously, smaller, constrained, and they're nearby the ocean or nearby the coast. So it's very easy once you get the plastic to move it onwards. These are a quick example of what we call interceptors. I'm going to give you a little bit more about each one of these versions, but you're seeing a few from Jamaica, Guatemala here. Basically, again, just to sort of note, each river system is different, has different sort of hydrological conditions, and so we adapt and customize our interceptors accordingly. We're currently working, by the way, in more than a dozen countries around the world. As I said, primarily in the global south, jurisdictions such as Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and then Guatemala, Honduras. We do have an interceptor in the city of Los Angeles, and I'm going to share at the end our very active and aggressive global scale out, which will take us to 30 large urban watersheds in the next 3 years. Again, very, very brief pictorial view of our different types of interceptors, again, designed to accommodate different sort of flow patterns, river uses, and hydrological conditions. And this is just one look of one version in action. This is in Kingston, Jamaica. This also suggests, as you saw, that not everything we collect in terms of river rubbish or river debris is actually plastic. It often includes a number of other things as well.
1, 2, 3.
What you're seeing here is actually off the coast of Roatan, which is the island near Guatemala and Honduras. This plastic, Roatan actually has one of the world's most spectacular reef systems, but for many years, up until recently, this is what you were going to dive into if you were off to see some of that wonderful marine life, which, as you can tell, is rather depressing and tragic. This plastic all comes from a single river, actually. This is Rio Motagua in Honduras, which this is a time-lapse video. So this is 90 minutes. And what you saw there is what we call a trash tsunami. This occurs starting in January of every year during the rainy season. And you have tons of plastic which come down the river at immense velocities, huge volumes, and actually large weights. And then you can see they stack up behind our barrier. We bring out these front-end loaders and just pull it out and repeat this regularly. So thousands of tons of plastic were coming from a singular river system. And that was leading to that terrible picture of what you saw, the diver earlier. This picture in 2017. And this is what that same location looks like now in 2025. Because our interceptor has been preventing the additional flow of plastic into that marine system. But you can't just take it out of the water. Once you have blocked it from entering the water, of course, as you all know, plastic will ultimately at some point oftentimes arrive on beaches. And we've all, I suspect many of us have participated in beach cleanups, which are very satisfying personally, but they're often quite frustrating because really after a day or two, the plastic has all returned. But this is what the beach looked like in and around Rio Motagua and Roatan before. And this is what it looks like now, because since we're preventing the influx of any new plastic, a beach cleanup was really just one and done. And so we're quite proud of not only taking the plastic out of the marine ecosystems in the water, but also the beach ecosystems as well. A lot of folks at this time often ask, what do we do with the plastic once we take it out? We handle the plastic from the oceans very differently than we do from rivers. So let me share a little bit about what we do there. This is an example about how we have taken advantage of, or what we've used river plastic for. Now, river plastic tends to be a little bit different in composition than ocean plastic. It tends to have been in the water for less amount of time. It's often than in fresh water, not salt water. And as I said, it tends to have been oftentimes mixed up with a number of other things, but this is one way we took advantage of some river plastic that we removed. We're quite proud and fortunate for our long-term relationship with Coldplay. In fact, I think at almost every concert, if you go, they will start or open or provide a little feature around the ocean cleanup. So very grateful, and they were very excited to have that limited edition LP made from river plastic that we'd taken out. Before we hop to the ocean plastic, I should just make this comment because it's a bit of a misunderstanding. Many people think the plastic out of water is often plastic bottles. Now, plastic bottles do have a significant contributory effect to plastic pollution, but particularly in the global south, we don't see a lot of plastic bottles in the river, primarily because plastic bottles have a value in many jurisdictions around the world. So people are not discarding plastic bottles. They are typically discarding less valuable plastic. It's more like plastic bags, styrofoam containers, sachets. So sachets would be like the ketchup packets. In the global north, we think of them as used for like condiment packaging, etc. In the global south, they're often used for things such as shampoo, dish soap, and other items. These are jurisdictions where people are aggregating wealth for the first time, but they typically don't have enough wealth to be buying things in large bulk packaging, nor do they have homes where they can store large items. So they typically buy sort of almost per use sized sachets, and these are the types of things that people discard often in rivers or water systems in the global south. And again, the other important point I need to make is that people are not less responsible or less careful or less thoughtful about the environment in the global south. The people in Jakarta, Mumbai, Manila, they preserve, conserve, and want their environment to be as healthy as we all do. But these are jurisdictions that simply have either no or very limited waste management infrastructure. So if you live in a city that doesn't have someone coming to pick up your trash once a week, and there's not an easy place to discard it, and you don't have a car, but you have a moving water system nearby, that's often the easiest place for you to discard your trash. So it's really an infrastructure challenge. Here's an example now of what we use our ocean plastic for with one of our partners at Kia Motors.
Every day, I quietly welcome your sandy shoes, muddy gear, and even your wet furry friends. As a trunkliner, I might seem boring. But my story is anything but. I was once lost at sea, aimlessly floating in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, abandoned and worthless. But everything changed when Kia and the ocean cleanup repurposed me into something useful in our daily lives. Now, I lie in the back of the Kia EV3, far from the spotlight. But I no longer drift aimlessly. I ride with purpose, quietly supporting every journey. I may not be a big wave of change, but I'm proud to be part of a small move towards a brighter future.
Kia, movement that inspires.
So I'm going to take the last 2 or 3 minutes here. So we have around 15 or 20 minutes for some questions. To give you a quick run through of part of our Asian portfolio. As I promised, we'll talk a little bit about Asian megacities. And so here we go. As I mentioned, we have the global portfolio, heavily focused in and around at the moment in terms of numbers of deployments in Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Mumbai. Here's in Malaysia, which is one of our very first deployments. We have both the vessel, so bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you saw the vessel, I think, in a few videos so far. This is a solar-powered vessel. We've actually sort of started to move much more sort of actively into using booms, the plastic booms. Not because the vessels aren't effective, they're very sort of useful in a number of different settings, but booms are just much more cost effective and can span much greater river systems. So this is in Malaysia. The other sort of interesting thing about our Malaysia work is our sorting facility. So oftentimes in our river work, we are responsible for measuring, mapping, and removing the plastic, and then we turn it over to either the local municipality or jurisdiction for movement onwards for sorting, handling, recycling, or otherwise responsible discard. But in Malaysia, we actually built a sorting facility because we felt that the local capacity needed some support in that regard. Now moving towards Jakarta. This is Chengaran. This was, again, one of the very first deployments using the vessel system. This is a quick look at what it looked like back then. It sort of evolved in our design over time. And in Cisadane, also in Jakarta, we have a series of booms. These are significant amounts of plastic. Again, not because the residents of Jakarta are less thoughtful. It's really an enormous challenge for Jakarta to keep up with the growing urban population with its waste management infrastructure. Here's a little peek with a video of how that large boom system in Cisadane looks like. You can see we have 2 actually set up. That's to accommodate commercial use of this river. It eventually funnels it all over towards the river side, where it's pulled out with those front-end loaders that you saw also in our work in Guatemala. Oh, sorry. Chao Phraya, so Bangkok, we have a vessel. This is because Chao Phraya is an extraordinarily busy river for commercial purposes. And so to have sort of a series of booms stretching across the entire span would have been just logistically and jurisdictionally a challenge, because we can't put anything in the water until we have agreements with all the different sort of government and municipal agencies. We have a vessel in Vietnam. And what's next? So we have what we announced last year, our 30 cities program, with a goal that if we can get deployed in these urban watersheds, that we will be removing 1/3 of all new ocean-bound plastic by 2030. So that's quite an aggressive goal in the next 3.5 years. You can see where we're headed. Again, a lot of activity in Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and India. But we're also equally busy in places such as Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Panama, Colombia, and soon to be in the waters in Brazil. So these were all chosen, again, to make what we call transformative impact. This program is around $350 million, both the capital expenditure and 5 years of operating expense. So it's significant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's really not a cost prohibitive activity. And we were very fortunate, the Ocean Clean was very fortunate. We received $121 million from an organization called the Audacious Group, which is affiliated with the TED program, in December of last year. So we are now just working on the delta of around $225 million to fund this entire program. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you for sort of letting me walk through a number of videos and slides and chat away. And now I'm here to address or answer any questions or provide any additional information if folks have it.
Monty, thank you. That was really incredible information, really astounding. There have been a number of questions that have come in on the chat. So if I could, I'd like to go through those first, and then we'll turn it over to people who have their hands raised, and we go through and get through them as quickly as possible. I'm sure people have a lot of questions. So first is from Sarah Shapiro. How many tons of stuff you pull out of the ocean? Isn't it just a tiny fraction of what's there?
Absolutely correct. So just in one of those aggregated systems, the garbage patch, there's almost 2 trillion pieces of plastic. So you are correct. We are a drop in the bucket. But as we like to say, we are a drop in the bucket that's growing extraordinarily quickly. We are a drop in the bucket that is providing a signal that we could clean up this challenge if we can't solve it, or if the policymakers don't solve it in an upstream manner. To clean that entire Great Pacific Garbage Patch using our system that we have in the water today, we could do it in around 5 years at a cost of $4 billion. We've actually mapped it out. People are like, well, that's a lot of money. But again, if you just think about how much plastic is produced, we used to use this figure that $4 billion is, I think, about the same that people spend on Halloween every year. So it's maybe not as big, but you're correct. Hopefully, to use a medical analogy, Sarah, we are trying to keep the size of the tumor sort of in a controllable, at a controllable size. Well, the ultimate sort of medical solution, which is an upstream combination, I think, of material science, policy redesign, and other things, comes up with a solution to solve the illness entirely.
Great. Bob Schloss asked, any attempt to visually associate larger pieces of plastic with products they came from and then bill the producer for your collecting clean work?
So we can absolutely visualize, especially in the river imagery, and we can find out if it's a Coca-Cola bottle. Like the granularity is very good, Bob. What we do then, actually, I tell people this all the time. We are experts at collecting plastic debris, but we're really experts at collecting data, and that data is what policymakers absolutely want, whether it's United Nations Environmental Program that we're working on, the UN, the World Plastic Global Treaty, or enterprises, corporations. We provide that data back because oftentimes they don't have a way of measuring at the moment if their corporate sustainable responsibility processes are either working or not. The only thing we don't do from that question is we don't then go to them and say, we'd like to charge you for this data, we'd like to charge you for our work. It often has sort of a bit of a halo effect, though. They often become quite interested in what we're doing and then become supportive.
Elise Baker said, how long do the nylon capture nets last? Can they be repaired or recycled when they become worn?
Yes. So they actually last quite a long time. This is why we have this enormous plastic problem in the oceans to begin with. This plastic is a very long-lived material. And of course, we use pretty robust material to make sure we can collect it. But yes, when it comes time, all of our materials can be recycled and reused.
All right. Paul Chapman asks, amazing progress. How is the effort funded and what is the potential for government/nonprofit scale up in the ocean cleanup? I think you touched a little bit of this, but I'm sure Paul
was answered.
Excuse me?
Well,
I think he answered it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the ocean cleanup has had historically really wonderful philanthropic support, primarily initially from high net worth individuals and really Silicon Valley that were enamored by this young engineer who you saw, Boyan Slot, who you saw in the video, using science and technology to tackle this insurmountable problem that no one else or everyone else said couldn't be solved. We then started to enhance with corporate partnerships, so Kia Motors, Coca-Cola, others. And what I'm spending my time on now as Director of Blue Finance is using some of these really interesting tools and instruments to fund our work alongside other wastewater management, our waste infrastructure funding, and that money will then come from governments, development banks, commercial banks, and development finance institutions.
All right. Huda Mustafa, who is one of the co-chairs of our programming committee with Margot McMahon, and they helped organize this specific speaker series. So thank you for this. She asked, do you collaborate with organizations on the consumption side in terms of industry or packaging? You mentioned Kia and Coldplay. What about poor or middle-class consumers who buy in small quantities many times a day or week? You touched a little bit on that too.
Correct. Yes. So, in our ocean work, that tends to be the larger corporations. However, in our river work, because that can be very sort of, if you like, addressable, very community visible, and oftentimes smaller companies that are producing things such as sachets for locally produced shampoos, etc. We do work with the local communities and local enterprises. We have sort of an array of different ways that they can come support and work with us. But typically the ones that actually want to take the plastic and reconfigure it or recycle it for their own purposes tend to be a little bit larger. That's why you see, as I said, Coca-Cola, Kia. But Huda, we work with any organization, nonprofit, private sector that wants to work with us.
Great. Brett Haber has 3 questions. So I'm going to do the first and then go to some other folks and come back if we have time. I want to make sure everybody has a chance to ask whatever they would like. The first question, is your ADIS tech something general citizens can add to their sailboats, catamarans, etc.?
So the answer is yes. It's really easy to install, but we would probably spend a little time just understanding where your vessel is going and what frequency, because we don't want to sort of distribute cameras. We love everyone's passion, but if a vessel is sort of not moving outside the economic exclusion zone with a high degree of regularity through areas that we either don't have data collection or we know are highly plastic areas, we might ask to sort of convert your passion to helping us in another manner. This normally sort of disappoints, but filters out the people that are passionate but aren't moving their boats in like the really sort of middle of the ocean areas that we're trying to collect data on. But the technology can be used easily anywhere for sure.
Great. Gina Durante.
Hi, thank you. Wow, there's so much stuff here. This is really exciting, learning about this. And I guess I had a couple questions I'm trying to sort of roll up into one. One ties into, I think, Paul's question around the funding and getting traction around this idea, as well as the technology side of things. So it looks like you're not removing microplastics, which is on the minds of a lot of people, and I think there are other technological solutions coming along for that. The company's been at this, or the organization's been doing this for about a decade now. So it sounds like you've got a lot of financing partners. It sounds like there's some excitement around the young founder. So I wonder if that ties into a bit of psychology, certainly in Silicon Valley, and folks being interested in financing this. If you want to speak to a little more of that, that would be great. I'm also wondering about the technical side. It seems like a lot of hurdles have been sorted. You've got a lot of edge technology, and maybe there's some computer vision AI things going on at that edge, which is really fascinating. And then it looks like you're working with large shipper, I see a great big container ship. There's all these pieces, and I'm just wondering how this organization's been successful in pulling all of that together, and what remaining big technological challenges there are.
Sure. Yeah, no, thanks very much, Gina. So first off, you're correct. We only work with macroplastics. Microplastics are an enormously challenging problem. And frankly, microplastics in anything apart from sort of urban controlled utility water systems are almost impossible to find. This is why we're trying to get them before they become microplastics. Then to your question around the young inspirational founder, he is indeed sort of the key voice. I mean, he started this organization. This is how it started, Gina. So when he was 16, so he's Dutch. He went to Greece with his parents, and they were going diving. And he went there, and all he saw were these plastic bags. And he's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. And he's like, why can't we fix this problem? And everyone's like, oh, can't fix it. There's just too much. And he's like, oh, this doesn't really resonate with me. So then he was 18 and he was starting his engineering studies at Delft University in just outside Rotterdam. And he said he gave a TED talk about this. And some people saw the TED talk and pulled him aside and said, hey, if you start an organization, we'll start funding you and you work on the science and tech side of this. And that's how it started. And 11 years later, here he is. He's still with us. And then there was the final question. So the technology. So we believe, again, really hard problem to find it, especially in the ocean, right? So if you look at where our advanced R&D work is happening right now, we call it hotspot detection, because in the ocean system, it's costly just to move our solution to where the plastic is, right? Like everyone's like, oh, 2 trillion pieces of plastic, but think of that 2 times the size of Texas. You have to go find it. But really sort of I believe the true revolution in technology that has to occur to solve this problem is not what we do. It's actually on the recycling side. Recycling just doesn't work. Even this term that is actually used as a bit of a marketing gimmick, in my personal view, advanced recycling doesn't work. And so until we can either have material science innovation upstream, we need to find a better way to handle the plastic once it's out of the water, or if it never enters the water, but it's just on land. So that's my quick rundown, Gina, of responses.
Margot.
That pretty much was my question of once you've gathered it, how do you recycle it, reduce it, compact it, or use those worms that digest it?
Yep. So thanks very much, Margot. So again, the river plastic is really tricky because it's not clean. It comes out, as I said, it combines organics, it's refrigerated, we got all sorts of stuff, which is why the first step is to do sorting. Historically, if I was doing this presentation 3 or 4 years ago, we'd say, well, all we do is actually before we start in a river, we find recycling partners and material handling partners in the jurisdiction that we're working. Oftentimes they're municipal, sometimes they're other nonprofits, sometimes they're private. However, we've discovered that the volumes of plastic, and because we're totally determined that once plastic has been taken out of the river, we don't want someone to just drive it upstream or downstream and put it back in the river. We're doing a lot more work around both those sorting facilities, and you'll start to see us actually building our own recycling facilities. River plastic, as I said, not easily recycled into things which people can utilize. If you think of the plastic bags, it's very thin plastic to begin with. The best that I've seen currently is in Indonesia and Philippines. I've seen this. Our partners will take it, they heat them up, so it's a thermal reduction, which has a carbon footprint. Unfortunately, there's really only 2 ways to break plastic down. It's either chemically or thermally. They sort of make it into a bit of a stew after heating it up. They pour that stew into molds, and they make them into planks. And those planks are used for tables, furniture, benches, sides of homes, etc. But it's not a business at scale. So a lot of this recycling is actually still not sort of industry, it's not It's not scalable enough to handle the large volumes of plastic. That's why I'm hopeful that technology innovation is occurring on the recycling side soon. There's some discussion around waste to energy. Too long for this last 2 or 3 minutes here, Margot. Japan and other nations are very proud about the waste to energy. It is a hydrocarbon. You can convert plastic into energy, but I often remind people there's a large carbon and energy footprint to heat that plastic up. That is the part of the process to make it into an energy, something you can utilize for energy production later. So it's a big challenge ahead for sure, Margot.
Well, we've got about a minute left. I've got time for one more question, and Anne Crawley had a question. Are you building patterns of how to partner with groups building waste management infrastructure?
Yes, absolutely. So again, we're a young organization, 160 people. I'm the oldest person in the organization. Most of them are 30 or younger, extraordinarily passionate. So we started out solving the technology problem. Then we were learning how to deploy quickly. Like I'm sort of watching the organization evolve, right? They are learning how to deploy infrastructure or solutions in really complex global south situations. I mean, to put something in the water in Jakarta and Manila, like these are not easy places to go deploy. I mean, even Los Angeles is complex because there's many different jurisdictions. We do have a growing sort of understanding of partnerships and understanding and assessing what I'll call the local recycling, environmental management, or waste management ecosystems in these various countries around the world. We used to only have people in Rotterdam, and folks would fly out, deploy, and come back. We now have country offices in places such as Jakarta, Manila, coming soon, and in Colombia, and in Guatemala, coming soon to Mumbai and Rio de Janeiro. So the organization is growing over time and growing sort of capacities well beyond sort of the scientific and technology side of things. Anne.
Great. Well, I want to thank you again. This has been an amazing talk. Just so everybody is aware, Monty is currently sitting in Manila, and it is now 5 a.m., I believe, for you.
That's
correct. A little bit early. So I want to thank you so much for getting up and providing this talk. It's really been amazing. And I know that we want to continue in YBG working on oceans, and we hope as you are a member of our board will help us put together some more programs which people on this call and others can join, because it's really an amazingly important topic. So thank you all.
Yeah, thanks everybody at CHIP and YBG for allowing me this opportunity. A couple of quick things. Folks can find me on LinkedIn, just Monty Simus. So if you connect and you had some questions we didn't get to, please reach out to me there. And just most importantly, thanks for your passion for the oceans and for thinking hard about these environmental issues to you all. It's a big challenge, but we're making headway. Young folks, new ideas, technology can help contribute to solving these challenges for us. So thank you all.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Monty.
Yeah.